Hello friends, this is Jana from My Tasty and Delicious, and today I'm going to show you how I prepare dried tomatoes with oil, garlic, chili, herbs. Very delicious recipe. And I also show you how I prepare it with salad then or some other recipe. Let's have a look how I prepare these dried tomatoes. I recommend using homegrown tomatoes for this recipe. First I wash tomatoes, then I remove the hard part of the stem from each tomato and cut it into approximately 1 cm thick slices. I arrange the tomato slices evenly on a baking paper, which I place on a baking net. I use food dehydrator for drying. I set the temperature to 55 degrees Celsius and the timer to 12 hours. After 9 or 10 hours of drying tomatoes, I slightly salt tomatoes. The salt will help bring out the sweetness of the tomatoes. I use fresh herbs to season the tomatoes. If you don't have any, you can also use dried herbs. I add basil, thyme, rosemary or oregano to the tomatoes. I didn't have oregano at the time, so I use sachurea. I cut the fresh herbs into small pieces. I don't use too many herbs, just a few twigs and leaves. I also prepare garlic, peel it and cut it into small thin slices. The texture of tomatoes when drying is complete should be semi-dry. This means that they still have a delicate juice inside them. When drying is completed, I let them cool down. I layer tomatoes in a jar, then add garlic, herbs and again tomatoes and so on. In each jar I also sprinkle ground black pepper. To some jars I also add 1 small chili. When jar is full, I pour extra virgin olive oil over it. I make sure that there are no air bubbles and tomatoes are submerged in oil. I close the jar with a lid and continue until I use all tomatoes. I sterilize jars with tomatoes in an oven. I originally put the jars in a freezer, but they took the space I needed for other foods. I preheat the oven to 120 degrees Celsius. I sterilize the jars with tomatoes in the oven with steam for 35 minutes. If you don't have a steam mode, just add a pot with a little water to oven. After 35 minutes of sterilization, I remove the jars from the oven and turn them upside down to cool. When the jars are cold, they can be stored in a shelf at room temperature and the tomatoes will not spoil. Tomatoes taste is very delicious. Try with the toasted bread. I will share some inspiration in the next post. If you like this recipe, give it a like and subscribe to other posts. Bye!